Perfect. So welcome everyone to our talk. And as you said, Victoria, it's about reskill people to rethink structural change. If we talk about the three of us, it's Alexandra, Stephanie, and myself. And I would like to hand over to you, Alex, to introduce yourself briefly.
Thank you. So hi everyone, I'm Alexandra Hoitz and I work as an organizational developer and agile coach at Scalamento, a small agency here situated in Hamburg in Germany. And yeah, my other passion goes to science and business psychology. So I'm currently doing my master's degree also here in Hamburg and would like to also continue with a PhD program afterwards. So back to you, Laura.
Thank you. I saw you, Stephanie. So maybe if you want to introduce yourself, that would be brilliant. I think you could go first if you like to.
Great. Hello, everybody. Good morning or good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is Stephanie Schoss. I'm a director of our Competence Center for Top Team Research in Switzerland at the University of St. Gallen. And I'm also a director at the Executive School in St. Gallen, responsible for all open enrollment programs. So team research has been my passion for over 10 years now, and I'm excited to share with you our project and get your feedback. And thank you, Laura, back to you.
Thanks a lot. So I'm Laura, I'm an organizational developer. I founded a startup and I also have the passion like Alex and Stephanie to do research, give lectures, and I'm a PhD student. So yeah, that's all about us very much in a nutshell. And we would like to tell you what we want to contribute to. So the life improvement science has come up with some grand challenges and we want to contribute to number 13. If you don't have that in mind, what is it about? It's about developing a career advice system that increases the expected well-doing as the resulting work and the consistency with the choices that each person is taking. And therefore, they want to increase the intrinsic values by at least 10%. So Alex will give you an overview on what we planned for today.
Right, so we will start off with the why of the whole reskilling program and with the context of it, and then introduce you to the program itself and our research design. And afterwards, we would love to hear your feedback and also have some time for question and answers. So before we jump into our presentation, we already marked the questions that we have to you or that are most important to us. So first off, what is your expert view on the research design? Do you have some feedback on the planned scales that we're going to use? And also, as it's going to be a long-term study, do you have some tips or hints for us to keep in mind as we haven't done that before? And yeah, if you want to use the QR code, you can use it to go to the Google document, but I think it's already shared in the chat as well. But there you can, of course, note down your questions and feedback. And yeah, maybe this helps you while listening to our talk to already have the questions in mind. Alrighty, then I think let's go with the perspectives.
So as we already named it in our title, we have three perspectives within our research. And I would like to shortly introduce those perspectives to you. So the one perspective is the state level. A state aims to have full employment, which contains to have people in jobs and to have the right people in the right jobs. And furthermore, a state strives to mitigate existential risks and thereby maximize well-doing. The second perspective is the company level. So a company, they aim for highly qualified and intrinsically motivated people because they are the most important predictor of their success and they are a key asset for every company. And the third perspective is every individual. An individual aims to have a job that suits their personal interests, their needs, and their skills, and thus leading to a higher well-being in physical and mental health. And Alex will show you something more about the reskilling program and why we need it.
Okay, so Yeah, as we can see at the moment, crises such as the current COVID-19 pandemic can lead to mass layoffs and societal problems, as we can see, for example, the aviation industry or hospitality industry that is suffering at the moment, or also especially developing countries where the percentage of unemployment rose really high during the last months. However, those structural shifts in certain industries won't be a one-time phenomenon, but in the future, also other disruptions, for example, artificial intelligence, or also other external influences like the climate crisis, will increase the need to actually be re-skilled or to learn new skills throughout your working life in order to prevent unemployment. So that's the one part, but on the other hand, companies are also fighting a war for talent. So they have a lot of vacant positions, and this is exactly where our reskilling program can come in to, on the one hand, prevent the mass unemployment, and to, on the other hand, fill those vacant positions. As a third opportunity, we see the individuals, because we can use this reskilling program to actually place people in a job or an organization that matches their personality, their motives and values, and thus has a positive impact on psychological well-being and potentially also the well-doing, and also relevant outcomes for the employer, such as the organizational citizenship behavior, etc. So now that we've heard something about the perspectives and the why, let's actually start and take a look on what is it all about, the reskilling program.
So we have two things for you. One is the happy path that we want to share with you. So what happens if a person loses the job? And the other part is the elements that we put together in the reskilling program. So we would like to briefly guide you through and put you in the perspective of what happens. So we have companies like airlines who have to lay off people due to the current economic situation. And then we have those companies who have their compensation packages, and as part of that, they will finance a part of the reskilling program. So we have the person who agrees to take part. They pass some initial checks because they lost their jobs, they now need a new job, and then they participate in the reskilling program. We will give you some more information about the reskilling program shortly. So after having taken part in the reskilling program, the person is freshly skilled, motivated, and ready for a new job. And then we will help the person to find a suitable company and the suitable job with respect to the needs, the values, the skills, etc. And we have, on the other hand, other companies who are seeking for new employees like Helvetia or Local Search, and they have vacancies, for example, for sales or customer relations employees, and therefore they are doing job interviews with the potential new candidates, and a matching will take place. So the reskilling program is the main part, and we have strong partnerships in here with really helpful and contributing parties, and we would like to briefly introduce them. On the one hand, we have Lionstep, which is a job platform in Switzerland and also internationally, and they have great experience with matching people with suitable jobs in accordance to their skills, intrinsic motivation and values. We have the University of St. Gallen, who is really experienced in education. So they have come up with a tailored education and training with simple principles. It's just in time, just for me, and just enough. So everything focuses on this job transition on the one hand side, and on the other hand side, focusing on knowing, doing, and being. So really bringing the people into the setting of the new job and the readiness for it. And the third part is that we have the IPM tool, as a really deep level and enriched diagnostics instrument with really much experience in it. So they do the job profiling and the matching with the candidates. Will check on it whether that also can increase the psychological well-being. So Alex will show you something more about the setup of the reskilling that takes part at the University of St. Gallen.
Okay, so what does it actually look like? So overall, the career advice or reskilling program will take about 4 months. This depends a little bit on how fast the placement of the person in the new job would actually be. Then the measurement period, so the time span where we are actually measuring different scales, is about 11 months. And we actually just started with the first cohort, so it's 180 people from the hospitality industry that are currently doing the reskilling program. And by saying that, I mean those 4 interventions. So we started in April with an assessment done by Lionstep for the potential candidates, where they are assessed based on hard fact criteria of the potential future companies like Helvetia and Co. And at the moment, once when they passed the assessment, those 180 people are actually doing the reskilling training from the University of St. Gallen and the coaching, which is done by former career changers. After this step, the IPM personality report will take place, what Laura just mentioned, so they will receive a detailed report about their own personality, which also includes some hints about possible career options that are suitable for their personality profile. And also the person job fit analysis based on text analysis is done during that time. And afterwards, the actual job matching will take place, which is done by Lionstep. So they will introduce them to different potential employers and start the recruiting process. That's the interventions. And if you now follow me to the right-hand side, you can see the 4 different scales that we want to measure throughout the time. So on the first, we want to measure the psychological well-being of the people by using the brief inventory of thriving by Dina. This is a very short scale with 10 items in total, which serves as an indicator of measuring the psychological well-being and the mental health of the candidates. Then we also want to measure the values by using the aspiration index of CASA. So here we have a relative prioritization of 11 different life goals and see how important are them to the candidates and also what are the chances to reach them throughout their life. And by using the scale, we can also divide into intrinsic values and extrinsic values. And then we have also the perceived person job fit, which states how well the person fits to the job based on skills, personality, interests, and characteristics of the job. And I have also the person organization fit, which states how well the candidate is suiting to the organization based on the values and goals. Yeah, so those are the different elements. And if we now take a look on the research setup itself, here you can see it in the time period. So we have in the gray boxes the different interventions that I just mentioned, starting on the left-hand side with the Lionstep assessment and ending with the job matching. And then we also have the different points of measure from T1 to T5. And by doing this, we on the one hand want to validate the whole reskilling program and also each individual intervention. So that's why we put a point of measure after each intervention as well. And maybe also important to mention, the last point of measure will be 6 months after the placement. So there we also want to see what are the longer term effects of the reskilling program. Okay, and then, yeah, Laura is going to introduce it to the research model.
So now you have a lot of information, and I hope you're still with us. So we would like to show you our first model. Actually, we have 3 research models. Due to the limited time, we will show you one a little bit more in detail, so you get an overview of what we have planned. So keep in mind, the research question was, does attending a career advice system in the process of job change enhance your ratio of prioritizing intrinsic over extrinsic values by at least 10% and increase the psychological well-being? So this is the research question that we have and where we want to contribute to life improvement science. So you already saw that research design introduced by Alex, and the first model is really the comparison and the measurement from people joining the program and people who are in the new job. So they have successfully left the program. And that is the whole validation that we want to present to you now. We have the research questions, and now we prepared for 2 kinds of types that we have in our audience. So if you are more the text person, that's maybe to you. And if you're more the visual person, then we have something afterwards for you. So we have our hypothesis, and we want to see the overarching hypothesis is, does attending the career advice system positively relate to the psychological well-being? And in addition, we want to find out whether there's also a positive relation between the person job fit and the psychological well-being and the person organization fit and the psychological well-being. And then we want to see whether the ratio between prioritizing intrinsic over extrinsic values, if you're not too familiar with that, thereby we have the hypothesis that it leads to more well-doing in general. So therefore we focus on the 10% and this ratio. So we will see whether there's a positive relation between this ratio and also the psychological well-being. So here you can see every time the dependent variable is the psychological well-being. On the other hand, we have our career advice system where we want to see what happens if somebody attended it. So we want to see whether after having attended a career advice system, the ratio of prioritizing your intrinsic over extrinsic values increased by at least 10%, and whether the person job fit and the person organization fit are higher than before. If you prefer it more visually, and repetition always helps, so we will show you that in a visualized version. So we have the overarching hypothesis, which is the number 1. Between the career advice system and psychological well-being. And then you can see that we also want to contribute with the prioritization of the values and the person job and the person organization fit. We will control for age, gender, education, the impact of the pandemic, and the type of employment during the last 6 months. So this is our research question compared or added with the hypothesis that we want to focus on.
All right,
back to you.
From us, yeah. Now, question goes to you. Do you have some feedback for us? Do you have questions to us? Maybe should we explain something a little bit more in detail before we jump into feedback?
If anybody has a question, please raise the hand and I can unmute you. Or you can write something in the chat.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Why is the training happening so early in the process? Why has there not been more assessment before that, or did I misunderstand? It seemed like a lot of the measurements would happen after the training, or a lot of the matching, but wouldn't they want to be matched to a job before they're trained? I think I didn't understand something.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Emily. Sure. So we first have the general assessment. So we have a potential future job that we will have a lot of companies who seek for that job or need employees for it. So we will do a general first screening for potential candidates in the first step. And Stephanie, please add any information. And then if we see a high potential that the person will, after the reskilling, have a potential to find a new job, that's good enough for us if the person agrees to start. I will hand to you, Stephanie. I think you need to be unmuted. Ah, yeah, perfect.
I am now. Yeah, so Emily, as Laura said, to make it very concrete, first we really screen the whole market for people from the hospitality sector in this case, airline industry, hotellerie, gastro, and so on, who are seeking a job and who have a suitable profile. So this is the assessment. And what we do in St. Gallen is to train them to become a salesperson, a customer care agent, or a customer-facing employee afterwards in a different industry. And we do work together with these industry partners to understand what the job really requires. And partly these industry partners even sponsor this program. So talking here from a practical point of view, what is beautiful here is this shift of the system. So as an education, or an educational institute, we don't only give them any broad education and say good luck with finding a job, but we have this network with a job matching platform and the university and the industry partners, so that we expect that about 80% of the candidates who get assessed in the beginning will have for sure a job afterwards. And we do the particular training so that they are reskilled from where they were before in their job life and after. Good. And I see there's another question from Christian.
Yeah. Hi, Christian.
Hi. Sorry, I wasn't quite sure if I'm on YouTube. Thanks for this great talk. The one question I had is, if I understand you correctly, those 180 people who now go through your program, they have been pre-selected, right? You have done the assessment. I think it would be important information how big that pool was in the beginning, because that is a sort of self-selection you doing at the very beginning, and I think it will say something about your program in the end, how effective it was with those you selected, but also in terms of, well, how many can your program cater for, in a sense. Does that make sense?
So the second part, Christian, what do you mean how many the program can cater for? What do you mean exactly?
I think it would make it different if there would be, let's say, 250 original candidates, of which 180 got through the program, or there were 5,000 people, of which 180 went through the program. I think that would be an important information, how broad your program basically is in that sense. Does that make more sense?
Very good comment. And to answer that right away, it were 230 suitable, out of which 180 were selected. And we should probably control for these criteria. There were mainly about some broad criteria that they have to meet, like willingness to change a job or to start at a certain time or so. But okay. That's a great input.
Just one idea while you're talking about, would be interesting to follow those people up as well after 6 months or something. How many of those have found a job? I think that could be an easy to get control group if that would work for you.
That would be great. That is a great idea. Well, what we do is, as a control group, what we have in mind. So this Lionstep, they are doing job matching for thousands of candidates, but without this whole education in between, and of course, without measuring. So we could have a control group who doesn't go through training, and we can also have control groups who don't get the person job fit match, but we also have some who don't do training, but the person job fit match from them. So we could actually build different control groups who have part of the interventions or none of the interventions. And we have to talk to Lionstep. That's a good idea. If we can also have a group that have no interventions at all, but we see where they stand after 6 months in their new job.
Thanks a lot.
Good luck.
Yeah. Thank you.
Good feedback.
Are there any other comments? So we were asking for your expert view, whatever your expertise is, or the planned scales, or conducting a long-term study. Is there anybody who has any feedback for us?
Doesn't sound like it. There are some more questions in the Google Doc, but
would you like to share them with us, or is it for now or for later?
so one of it is, how do we convince new employers that a person trained by this reskilling program is better than someone who holds a degree or a certain certificate in that area?
So from my point of view, it isn't about better or worse. Those companies who are seeking for new employees, they really have a big need for it. They need a lot of sales or customer relationship experts. It doesn't mean that they do not recruit at all from any other part of the market, but with us, they have a strong partner and they have a higher possibility to get suitable candidates due to the logic that Stephanie explained. So that's the reason why they collaborate with the University of St. Gallen as a strong partner.
And maybe in addition to that, it's also very valuable if the person is matching due to the personality, the values, etc. So that's also a great indicator for performance in a job. So on top of learning some skills by a reskilling program.
And actually, in addition to this is also a reason why we put the measurement of T5, because we want to see what happens after like the honeymoon phase. If you switch to a new job, what happens after the 6 months? What about the person job fit? What about the person organization fit? And that is another good idea to see whether there's a difference between people that come through the reskilling program or people that just join from the market. So that could be another aspect, and also advantage for the companies to collaborate with the University of St. Gallen. Stephanie?
Okay.
What is also interesting is here the T2, measuring the well-being of the candidates after a university program. Because what we do here for the first time is we open this program to candidates that don't have a first degree. which we never do, sorry, which we have never done in the past since the existence of our university. So the question is, how does the access for people, let's say a flight attendant who doesn't have a first degree, how do they feel when they are able to attend an elite university program and have that in their resume? And sorry for the background noise.
No problem. Yes, you still have 2 minutes left for question and answer, and then we will continue with a general question and answer. So,
okay. Then there's another one. What happens to people whose values don't fit with any of the jobs being offered?
That is a good question. Stephanie, do we already have an answer to that? Does it just prolong the matching process?
Well, I think I like that question a lot. Thank you. There is an perceived fit by the people who actively apply to this job and they see all the job description. So there must be any sort of at least extrinsic value, and be it just, you know, needing the money of a new job. So there might be any extrinsic value to apply to this new job, but it would be interesting to see if the intrinsic values don't fit, or if that extrinsic value scale also doesn't match up. So there is probably another level of wanting the job, of value, that this job would be something for me. Let's see how we could capture that. If you had any ideas on that other level of intention by applying to the program, that would be interesting.
So thank you for all of your questions. And yeah, if you want to reach out to us, here are our email addresses. Thanks for the questions and your feedback. That was very helpful. And I think back to you, Victoria, right?
Yes, thank you very much for this great program and initiative.